The Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's the Full Melt Show.
Welcome. Thank you to everybody in this room for being here. It's an honor to be here among you today after covering this story for so long. I want to thank you at home for being with us tonight. We are here tonight for this special town hall because a disaster of national proportions has hit this city. And even though the country has now woken up to that disaster, we're here tonight to report what I think is fairly shocking news, that the problem here is not actually being fixed. This has been a story about Flint, a story about Michigan so far, but what it's going to take to fix it here is national. It's American. It's big. And I want to show you something. This is at the heart of what went wrong, and frankly, what still is wrong. The reason I'm using a cloth to hold this is because this is lead. This is lead pipe from Flint, and a lot of people in Flint have lead pipe like this going from the water main that runs down the street into their homes. All right? Lead pipe. This is the kind of galvanized pipe that a lot of people have inside their homes. This specific piece of galvanized pipe was cut out of a wall in a house in Flint by a master plumber who lives in that house, who grew up in that house, and who cut out this piece of it to show us what this American disaster looks like up close, literally from inside the pipes. When the state of Michigan made the inexplicable decision to send untreated corrosive river water through the pipes in this city, that decision basically wrecked the pipes. It started a corrosion process that sent toxic lead into the water, into people's homes, through the faucets, and into the bodies of moms and dads and old people and little kids in Flint. And that corrosive water source has been switched. It's been switched back. But damage is done. Damage is done to the pipes, to all of them. That is why you still cannot drink the water here. Not because the water source is still bad. They switched it back to the good one. It's because the pipes have been hurt by the 18 months of bad water that flowed through them. And so, we need to talk about how to help the kids who have been exposed to this toxic stuff in this town, and we are going to do that tonight with the people who you want to hear from on that subject.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
It's the Full Melt.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
All right, so welcome to another edition of the Full Melt Show. Up there at the front, listening to Rachel Maddow yesterday with her big live coverage from right there inside the Flint schools, and talking about all that stuff happening up in Flint with the water crisis and this whole business of really terribly falling at the hands, actually at the feet of the governor there. Many, many people calling for his resignation. You know, I want to know, at least as it goes with the medical marijuana community, it's not just the kids that are getting poisoned here. I mean, what about all those people in their grows? And then also, what about the pets? It seems like people are always willing to feed their pets less than what they're willing to take themselves. What about the animals? Is there other fallout we're not going to hear about? And then the other question that I raised a little bit later was, I think that the second coming of the crisis in Flint is already on its way. And what I mean by that is there's this reaction from the government. One of the first reactions they had, besides sending water out there in bottles, not really tankers and trucks, just bottles. Some of them gallons, some of them just, regular hand bottles. But the other response, and the initial and first response, was to send filters, the ones that you attach to your filter, the faucet. You put it on the faucet, and it's got a filter in there, and you use that. The problem is that I think that's part of the problem. I mean, this knee-jerk reaction from a governor who doesn't know how to handle these kinds of things and doesn't have enough people in intelligent places doing the right things Instead, he's doing crisis management instead of averting the crisis. Right now, he's continuing to cause one by having all that water up there going through filters that are not designed to take lead out of the water. I mean, those little filtration systems that you put on, they're called particulate filters is what they're called. And they have some other, silver impregnation and activated carbon and stuff in there, too, that goes on, aside from the, particulate filtration. But the thing is it's really designed to make the water smell better and look better and to take out particles. It's not designed to take out lead in the water that's soluble in it. It's the only thing that's going to take that out is reverse osmosis. It's a much more expensive process. And what I'm saying is by handing out all these filters and saying, here, you can put this on your tap and at least you can use the water out of the tap. No, you cannot. And I think it's irresponsible for them to be handing out these filters and saying that this is an answer to the problem. It's just not the answer. If you know anything about water, you shouldn't be doing that. We were talking earlier in the week about this trial that was going on with Alan Witt up in Gaylord. And so my guest on the phone right now is Josh Covert. He's Alan's attorney. Welcome to the program, Josh. I'm sorry it took me a minute to introduce you there.
Oh, it's all good. Thank you.
So we at our last discussion, you had not had a chance to actually go to trial yet. We had just talked about the pretrial thing with the Section 8 coverage. And then we didn't have a chance to catch up with you after the actual trial day. And the third day, you came back and did closing arguments, and then it went off to the jury. Can you fill us in on what we missed and kind of the importance of what happened there? Because I think there's a lot people want to know and that people don't know, and that maybe you might want to tell them about, Josh Covert.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Well, the trial kind of opened up with a big surprise when the prosecuting attorney started talking about this being a dispensary and the fact that their confidential informant had a card, medical marijuana card. And so that kind of changed the whole scope of everything, where it was kind of game on. We could talk about medical marijuana. We couldn't assert a defense or have a jury instruction. But at the same time, we were able to explain what was going on. And we, at one point, with one of the witnesses, even got into a discussion about CBDs and what CBDs were. And so it was wild. It really was. And we were able to expose a confidential informant that was very shifty on the stand and wouldn't admit to receiving any benefit or anything like that. And then later on, police officers were talking about how he was investigated for having marijuana, and that they weren't going to be pursuing investigations because he cooperated and did these controlled buys in 8 different dispensaries.
Oh, wow. So really you had a situation here where all the Section 8 defense business and all this protectionism about the jury not hearing anything about medical marijuana, and there it is, right, an open court testimony. I don't get the dichotomy of terms here. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's really strange that we just couldn't, I guess, assert the defense.
Right,
so because the prosecuting attorney started talking about it, it was fair game. And so we obviously brought it up and talked about it as much as we could. And I think the jury really learned a whole lot.
Right.
Now, when it came down to it, though, the judge at the end did read an instruction saying the Medical Marijuana Act is not a defense in this case, and you must enforce the law as, it's given to you. So that was the one, I guess, bad aspect of obviously losing the defense. Not only do we not get an instruction, but we got an instruction saying that it wasn't a defense.
Admonishing it.
Yes.
In the long run, there were 3 counts, correct?
Yes.
And can you go over the counts and their severity? Are they all felony charges?
Yeah, no, there were 2 felonies and a high court misdemeanor, which is kind of between the 2.
Is the high court misdemeanor
and a felony.
Is the high court misdemeanor the one involving maintaining a drug house?
Yes.
Okay. So tell us what happened there, because I've already told everybody, but for the benefit of the people who haven't heard, go ahead and let's hear it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, sure. So, the jury deliberated for, I think it was approximately 3 to 4 hours, and came back with a guilty verdict on count 1, which was the delivery charge. Hung jury on count 2, which was the possession with intent to distribute. And then it was a not guilty on count 3, which was maintaining a drug house.
Now, that just, when I first heard that, All I did was get question marks pop up in my head. Not a single one, Josh, but like lots of them. And the more that popped up, the more that popped up behind those. It amazes me that a jury, now having full understanding that this is likely all wraps around a medical marijuana case, how could you not? I mean, the occurrence, the offense that they based their entire prosecution upon happened inside of a dispensary, for crying out loud. How could that not come out in open court testimony? And so the fact that they talked about this, it really it belies logical thinking to understand that a jury had 3 different charges and used the each facet of their ability on all 3 charges. They did 1 not guilty, 1 hung jury, 1 guilty. It's like they spread out their risk there. It's like they're playing a poker game. I don't get it.
Yeah, I've thought it through quite a bit since then, and I really can't make any justification whatsoever in regards to how they came to that decision.
The only thing I could think of is that they were all hung on it and then agreed to spread out the charges. Hey, we'll agree to pitch guilty this way and not guilty this way and hang ourselves on the middle one and send it back that way and see if the judge swallows it, which apparently he did.
Well, I've had a chance to talk to 2 of the jurors. 2 of the jurors actually have approached me since this all went down. Yeah, one of them stuck around for probably a half hour or so outside and walked up to me when we were leaving. And then I had another juror that reached out and gave me her phone number through social media, and I called her, and we had a long discussion. And there weren't a whole lot of people really, other than the maintaining. It was pretty much her and 1 guy that were holding out on both charges. And eventually she's the only one. And at some point, she told them that I don't care what the law says. I'm going with my conscience, and I'm not getting him with possession to intent to deliver because he was an employee.
Right. Well, it seems so unfair to hang that on the guy that's at the front door that's just being paid to do a job and trying to do it apparently within the bounds of the law as best he could.
Correct, yeah.
Josh, we only got about, before the break hits, we've only got about, 30 or 40 seconds, and I really kind of wanted to ask you more about that conversation. Is there anything that you can lend from it that bears you, I suppose warrants your sticking around for that? I mean, because I'd like to talk about it if you want. If you don't have time to or you don't want to discuss it, I understand that as well. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that music's going to start in a second here, and then we're going to go to break.
That works.
Okay, if you'll hang on through the break with us, we'll come back and talk with attorney Josh Covert, who has this amazing case up there in Gaylord. And I guess I want to maybe explain to people, too, about how I think it's why the community really came up there and wrapped around Alan Witt and stuck behind him in a way that it seems like they haven't done in the past for many other people, although there's a lot of court support that happens, and maybe we'll talk about court support and what that means and how you can participate in it. It's all coming up next on The Full Melt Show. Stand by, don't go away.
You're getting the full melt.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law
at RudoyLaw.com.
RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana
and up-to-date news.
That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
RootMetrics, in the nation's largest independent study, tested wireless performance across the country. Verizon won big with 153 state wins. AT&T got 38, Sprint got 2, and T-Mobile got 0. Verizon also won first in the U.S. for data, call speed, and reliability. AT&T got text. Stuck on an average network? Join Verizon, and we'll cover your cost to switch.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
2571.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release. We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade, you got this.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki.
Sacred Elements.
Raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dort Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570. It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
Say, and by the way, in case you didn't know it, the Sweet Leaf has some new hours now. And they actually have, so they open earlier. They open at 9 a.m. instead of 11 now. And you can find some specials there. They got early bird specials. Monday through Saturday between 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning. Get down to 400 South Dort Highway in Flint at the Sweet Leaf. Say hello to Bob and tell him Steve Green sent you at the Full Melt Show. Man walks into dispensary in Gaylord, Michigan. Man purchases 4.5 grams and a brownie. Man leaves. Man turns out to be confidential informant. A criminal case ensues where there are 8 other raids, including this location. Split verdict on the jury. Josh Covert, can you tell me, is there plans now to appeal this case?
Well, we first have to see what they're going to do with the hung jury charge.
Oh.
The prosecuting attorney could elect to retry that charge and have another trial all about possession with intent to distribute.
Do you think?
I don't anticipate that.
Yeah, I was just going to say you were going to answer the question. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't anticipate that to happen. I think that they've kind of got what they want, unfortunately, which is a conviction, a felony conviction,
right.
Which would take away caregiver status for other people,
right,
and other patients, and so I don't think they will. And I don't think this trial went as easy as they anticipated. So.
Right, they didn't anticipate that that the jury was going to like. They probably thought that they had a solid comeback on guilty on all 3 if it goes to trial, especially given there's no defense on the medical marijuana issue.
That's the impression I got from them. Yes.
Now we were talking before we went to break about some jurors that you had a chance to speak with. Can you enlighten us what transpired there that was noteworthy?
It's unusual. I've done quite a few trials, and I've never had a juror actually reach out and want to talk in that way. They both were very eager and wanted to talk and wanted to ask questions about what really happened. I think the jury felt that they were misled. They didn't know all of the information. And I wish they had used that, the prosecuting attorney's burden of proof to explain that and to acquit. But
was there a process? Because and I didn't mean to interrupt your answer, because and I want to don't let me hold on to that note. It was explained to me that the jury asked a number of things after they went off to deliberations. Did they do some interviewing and make questioning to the court during that deliberation process? Because I think that plays into this business with the jurors.
Yeah, not only during deliberations, but they asked questions of numerous witnesses. Like probably 3 to 4 jurors would each have sometimes 1 to 2 questions, and I've never seen anything like that. The jurors all didn't know what was going on, didn't know why we were there, or at least quite a few of them. And then when they went back to deliberate, we had quite a few questions as well, more than normal. And they were really trying to figure out what was going on. And unfortunately, based on the rules of evidence and the way things work, there are some questions you just can't answer.
Really?
For jurors. Some of those worked in our favor, and I think some of them didn't. And that's just kind of the way it goes.
Well, I think, and this is why I brought the subject up in your answer with this questioning about these jurors that came to you, which is, like you said, a little bit unusual. I mean, it's not something that often happens, and you said it's probably never happened to you, right?
Yes,
so the reason is that if the jury's asking a question, if I'm a juror on a panel and I've sat through courtroom testimony and paid attention and took notes and then went back to do careful deliberations on somebody's felony trial, to me, if I've got a question about what's going on and I ask the court that question and they say, we can't answer that question, you're going to have to figure it out without knowing the answer to that question. Right away, to me, it seems like the court did themselves a disfavor because their burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. And didn't the court, by refusing to answer that question in deliberations, cause reasonable doubt?
I would have thought so. Yeah, I felt better and better with the questions as they would come out, and there were ones that I would move that we couldn't answer, and the judge would agree, and that I kept thinking that the questions were helping us.
Right.
And in some ways, I don't think the jury understood the burden of proof completely based on talking to the two of them. So,
well, this has got to help for future cases, but it's unfortunate in Mr. Witt's case right now because he stands with a felony conviction on his record. I'm assuming he's out of pending sentencing.
Yes, they did not remand him and revoke bond. So, yeah, he's out pending sentencing. We do plan on appealing. We're going to wait out and see what they're going to do first, obviously, with the hung jury charge. And then on the other the appeal issues, we'll wait until after sentencing, and then we can get appeal by right.
Right. And I'm so glad you said, and this is what stands why I think so many people come up there and rallied around Mr. Witt in unusual fashion. It's because and correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, but all the other people that fell the same circumstances as Mr. Witt or similar circumstances or ramifications from this same investigation, they all pled out in this, didn't they? None of these other people went to trial.
There are two that did not, that went, well, out of 8, I am aware of quite a few that have pled. I know Al went to trial, and one of my other clients is awaiting trial.
Okay, so you have another. You're
one of the dispensaries.
So you're representing another client at another dispensary on the same kind of
Correct.
deal.
On the exact, pretty much same CI, same police officers. It was the same day for the buys. It'll be the same judge, same prosecuting attorney.
Wow. So it's right back through the same gamut. I mean, you got to run through the same obstacle course.
Yeah, we haven't had a set a trial date for that as well yet. I've remanded that case back to the district court to determine a few things, but I anticipate we will end up going back to trial.
Wow. Did you guys have? So you haven't had a chance to do the Section 8 hearing and all that stuff in that case yet?
We remanded it back to the district court to conduct a preliminary exam. We waived conditionally, and some of those conditions were not fulfilled.
Ah. So now you're going back for the preliminary exam, and then you got to go forward from there. So the answer to that question in short order is no. You haven't got to that stage yet.
We waived it conditional upon finding out information about the confidential informant's medical condition and doctor.
Ah.
And we even after trial, I know it's the same CI number. We still don't know his doctor.
Right. Good Lord.
So.
And all that stuff, a lot of that protection hangs on the issue of that doctor certification, doesn't it, Josh?
Correct, and that's why it was important for us to find that information out, and we did not obtain it during Al's trial or case, and I'm still seeking that information, which may help us with the Section 8 defense, but that's going to depend still on the relationship between the bud tender and the customer, I guess.
Right.
As well.
There has to have been a lot of things learned at this trial that you might be able to use at the next one. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, definitely. It helped. I know how the judge is going to rule on certain issues and what the prosecuting attorney is going to object to, and those sorts of things, which obviously helps.
A lot of variables have been eliminated by having gone through this once with the same people in a similar exact circumstance. The thing that I think still is I don't know what makes this really newsworthy again is I think the idea that there aren't that many people that stand up, especially in a situation where they've just done in this city new regulations with regards to making allowance for dispensaries there. In places like Ann Arbor and Flint and Lansing, it seems like there is this agreement, or they've come to this. The police have been in concert with the cities that have done these, because the cities, the police usually work for the city or the township or wherever they're at, and so they're their employees. And so if you've made rules and regulations about this kind of stuff, does that change the environment now in Gaylord versus the circumstances under which this took place earlier last year or late part of last year? In other words,
yeah.
In other
it's a complicated answer, I think, because you're looking at a few different things. Well, for one, there are more dispensaries now in Gaylord than when everybody got raided.
Right.
And there's, I guess, a few opening up within the next couple weeks. So I don't think it's really changed anything, in that respect. But at the same time, even if the city police officers are behind it or the police chief, this was a multi-county narcotics enforcement team that did this. They were mostly comprised of Michigan State police officers.
Right.
So in some ways, I think they don't represent the community. I think the community completely supports the dispensaries. I think everyone, the majority of people, at least in Gaylord, are completely behind it. This is solely, I think, because of it, this is the narcotics enforcement team is a multi-county jurisdiction, and I think that's a problem.
Well, it certainly. I mean, when it comes to policing, I've always said, look, when you eliminate police requirements to live inside the communities that they police, you create a problem because it's an us versus them mentality. Instead of I'm going to protect and serve the community in which I live, it becomes I'm going to that bad place to bust on those bad people. And so you've got the same kind of mentality, I think, when you've got a multi-jurisdiction or a multi-county task force coming in to do these kinds of operations. Generally, isn't there some kind of, isn't there a thin blue line? Why aren't multi-jurisdictional task forces doing this in places like Ann Arbor and Lansing and Flint? I mean, that's the question that pops in. They've got the exact same situation. They've got a local municipality who's come to agreements on terms of what this should be and what this shouldn't be, and they've made rules for establishments like this, even though they're post-action of this circumstance. They've got the same thing going on there. Why wouldn't the police, in these other places, these other cops have, they've got some agreements that they're not going to cross the thin blue line and go into somebody else's jurisdiction and make waves where they're not wanted? That's the question.
I'm sure there's plenty of them that enforce the Medical Marijuana Act as it should be, but at the same time, there's certainly a rogue, or I would say cowboy sort of mentality with a lot of these narcotics enforcement teams, which I don't think they really care if this local city disagrees with it or doesn't like it. I think they kind of have that power of being on that sort of team, and I think that's a problem.
It is a problem. I'm hoping that a lot of this goes away, because it seems like a lot of the money that comes from the federal end, because a lot of these task forces rely upon a lot of federal money to let them run. That's why they've got a DEA component in all of these task forces. Otherwise, if they didn't have the DEA component, they wouldn't get that narcotics enforcement money. And so it would seem to me now that the DOJ has said, look, the people at DEA can't be spending money in states where they have medical marijuana laws, and especially where they're trying to be in compliance with the law there, or I guess it's unambiguous compliance. But still, there's this nipping at the heels from the feds about giving money to places like this to conduct these raids in defiance of what has been determined locally and at the state level. So I'm hoping that that most of these task forces will start to shrink up a little bit, because they don't have the money now to employ the people to do that on a full-time basis, because admittedly most of that money is wrapped around marijuana stuff, not They're not. It's not so much the meth labs or the crack houses. It seems like heroin's come back for sure. But it seems like the vast majority of those kinds of enforcements are done on marijuana, not on these other drugs. And if that's the case, I would hope the task force would end up shrinking because the money for that enforcement's going away. I don't know. Josh, I probably kept you on the phone long enough. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to this or that you thought was significant about this? And then also, if people decide that maybe they need to talk to an expert about defending themselves in a case like this, and they wanted to reach out to you, is there a way that they can do that? Can you give me those two before you run off?
Yeah, sure. One of the big things I really took away from this, and it's something I've seen in quite a few of my other cases, is when everybody comes together and can fill a courtroom and sit through the trial just like the jury and show that they care and let it be known that they're there for the defendant, but at the same time remain respectful. And that's exactly what happened for 3 days. We had 67 people sit in every one of the court seats the entire time. And that was amazing to see. And I think that really did help us in a lot of ways. I think it gave that one or two juror members that much more support when they were back there fighting against the other jurors for the verdicts, or at least the hung jury that we got.
I can see how that would have a huge effect.
Yeah, so I just would like to say if people do get in trouble and they do see themselves in a situation like Al or like a lot of other people see themselves in, don't be afraid to talk about it and reach out and find these groups and find people. People will support you, and I think that certainly can help a lot.
And then as to the question of how can we talk to Josh Covert about our defense situation, especially involving these medical marijuana cases, because it seems like you're really up on all of that information.
Well, thanks. But, yeah, you can reach out to me at the Nichols Law Firm in East Lansing. That's the type of work I do. And also look me up on Facebook and Michigan Cannabis Defender. And
so it's Josh, Covert, yes?
Yep, correct, just like covert operations.
I never thought about it like that. Little double entendre for you there from the attorney community. I like that. Leave it to the attorneys to have some good vocabulary to sling out every once in a while. Thanks so much, Josh. I really appreciate you coming on. Good luck in the future of Mr. Witt's case, because I know you still got stuff to deal with there, especially if you're going off into an appeal situation. And good luck with these other cases, too, because as we forge this on, we're going on to try and correct some of this with MI Legalized, and hopefully not to impact your income there, but I'm hoping that a lot fewer of these medical cases will come to trial once we get this passed with MI Legalized. Thanks again, Josh Covert.
Thanks.
All right. We'll be right back on the other side. I wanted to talk a little bit about some stuff going on in Florida. They've made the ballot signature, barrier. We'll talk about that next.
Full melt.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release. We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade. You got this.
At book club, they were asking me what you're doing now, Janice.
Blogging. Your blog is just pictures of you in a mirror.
It's called a fashion blog, Todd. Well, I've been helping people save money with Progressive's discounts. Flo, can you get Janice a job?
You should have stuck to softball. I was so much better at softball than Janice did.
Where's your wife, Todd?
Vacation.
Discounts like homeowners, multi-policy. I got a discount on this ham.
I've got the meat sweats. It's good ham, Diane.
Paperless discounts. Give it a rest, Flo.
Yeah, Flo, give it a rest.
We asked people to tell us something that happened in their past and something that might happen in their future. The good things were put on yellow magnets and the bad ones on blue. The results show the past was a pretty even mix of good and bad, yet the future was almost all good things. Now that you've seen the results of this experiment, what does it mean to you?
We all want to think about positive stuff.
Realistically, there will be downtimes.
It's great to think optimistically, but let's plan for whatever the future might bring.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pets.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Normally, you can hear the Full Melt Radio Show Monday through Friday from 7 till 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I'm Steve Green, and we are running a little bit late today, so we actually have another entire half hour to go, which is exciting to me because we got more stuff to talk about. Usually, well, it's not quite a half an hour. Okay, it's like 20 minutes. Usually I'm at the end of the show and I still got more stuff to talk about, and sometimes didn't talk about the thing that I wanted to talk about most. Go figure. If you want to find us on iTunes, get subscribed to us all the time. That would be awesome. You can go to thefullmelt.com. Right there at the top of the page, you'll see a link. Click and subscribe. It's just that easy. It ends up right down there on your iPhone, or right there in your iPod library. The one with all of the connected up to the iTunes. And then also you can get our Spreaker customized apps as well. Go to your either Google Play, or you can go off to the App Store and search for The Full Melt Show. The Full Melt Show. And download the app, and you can listen to our show there mobily. Both live and our old shows are all listed there as well. So I was telling you earlier that there was this business about Florida and them and I mentioned this before as breaking news yesterday, I believe. Medical marijuana is going to now make it, according to winknews.com. This story released today. And you know what? I think I'll just play I can just play this for you. You see if I can. I didn't know that Wink had some video up on here, but I'm just going to go ahead and play this little snippet from their content on winknews.com, credited to them. Let's see if we can get this to pull up now. Marijuana on the 2016 ballot, developing today. See, now they're gonna do this stupid commercial stuff. It's for a local radio station, so it's not going to matter here, anyways. If you're wherever this is, it's 94.5 The Arrow. Just tell them.
Any questions?
Yeah, right. Here we go.
Also developing within the last hour, medical marijuana will be on the ballot in 2016. That's according to attorney John Morgan, who is backing the proposed amendment. Wake News confirmed with the Florida Department of State, Morgan's group, United for Care, obtained the required number of signatures. Medical marijuana was voted down in 2014.
And it would only fail by a matter of 2%. See, in most other places, if you get like a 50%, 51%, if you're at 51% at the end of the day after they've counted all the ballots, then it passes, right? In Florida, because were they going after a medical marijuana? Were they going after a constitutional amendment? It may have been a constitutional amendment change request, and that's why the 60% barrier is. So in Florida, the law is that the ballot petition does not pass unless it's 60% at the polls. And so they got 58% in 2014. And that issue went down after Matty Maroon, world-class billionaire, spent some $5 million in opposition ads to that campaign. And so, you know that these guys are going to go back to the drawing board and start over again. Let me just tell you, marijuana is not a boulder you're pushing back up the hill. It's way, way too big. You got gravity pulling that sucker down. You're not pushing it back up. I don't care what kind of rigs. I don't care what kind of, leverage. I don't care, the only way it's happening is if you tip the hill back on its side and gravity's no longer working for you. That's the only way that boulder's not rolling downhill. So for Matty Maroon to spend that money, perhaps he saved himself some alcohol sales money at his expensive luxury casinos, which is really what he's standing behind there. He doesn't want cannabis to get in the way of his alcohol sales at those establishments. Because you can imagine if you had retail cannabis going on out there, people running around with medical marijuana, they might be smoking that and coming in there instead of having alcohol. It works to his advantage if you get all screwed up on the booze while you're there. They'll give you free booze all day long if you're sitting there pulling that slot handle. Or if you're sitting at a poker table losing your money, losing your ass. They'll feed you booze until the cows come home. because, people make bad decisions when they're on alcohol. People are a little more, deer caught in the headlights if they've got some cannabis in them. So they're a little less likely to spend money making bad decisions at the casino. They might be like, oh, crap, I need this last $20 to get home with. If they're all buzzed up on alcohol, they don't generally make that decision. They spend the $20 hoping they'll have some cab money and can get a steak on the way home. They end up with no money, and then they got to call a friend to take them home. That's how the casino wants you. They want to tip you upside down, shake the last dime out, and then send you on your way. Thanks for coming out. Come back again soon. But he spent all that money down there. He spent $5 million of his own money. That's that's not even a day's interest for Matty Maroon. It's not even a day's worth of interest that he's got on all those billions of dollars. It's just not. So, this was like, instead of getting Starbucks today, I think I'll spend some money fighting against the pot people because I don't want this to. It's a slippery slope. There's going to be retail cannabis pretty soon, and then none of the people are coming into my casino and spending screwed up cash on all effed up on booze. They're not going to spend that money that way. So this was the equivalent of you or I choosing to not have the Starbucks today for Matty, but it's all turned now. Because I said that boulder's not going back uphill, right? And so the people of Florida have done exactly what I expected they would do, and are definitely on the ballot according to this article. The new amendment, if passed, would allow legal medical marijuana use after a Florida doctor determines a person has a debilitating medical condition, according to the Division of Elections. The Florida Department of Health would be tasked with regulating medical distribution centers and issuing ID cards to users. The amendment would need support from 60% of the voters to pass, so it is the same as the last one. When 5 eligible Florida marijuana nurseries were named last month, Southwest Region submitted the greatest number of challenges to the Florida Department of Health. The process of awarding the licenses to the nurseries has since been delayed. And I had a farmer on from Florida, from the Black Farmers Association, I think. And these guys are like, look, the rules that they crafted are unconstitutional. I had him on the show last year, late last year, late in the summer, I believe. And he talked about how the rules were unfair because it left out all the people that are most capable of fulfilling some of this stuff and have been in business for a long time. And look, you had to be a nursery and be in business for X number of decades with X size capacity in order to even apply for one of these licenses. They're allowing 5 in Florida. And they all went to these big, giant co-ops. Again, this was all one of these backdoor deals where all the big money people got what they wanted out of this and not necessarily the industry. In fact, the big money people, in my opinion, have blocked access to medical cannabis because it's a CBD-only law there. They're not allowed it's got to be a low THC oil only. And it's really designed just for kids with epilepsy and, retractable epilepsy, where they're not getting benefit from standard narcotics. They're really just, a lot of opiates and other, muscle relaxants and stuff like this that they just give them in mass. These are basically horse tranquilizers and hoping that this will calm seizures. And the seizures don't stop. They're just tranquilized and seizing. So this is what the low CBD oil down there law is. And in order to get it, right now there's no access. This law has been in effect for a couple of years now down in Florida. And none of the epilepsy patients have access to this product because they've been, working issues around the growers and the guys that are going to supply it. This is not cannabis in a normal form. This is not, your grandfather's cannabis patch. It's not. This is a specialized cannabis, and it seems like the guys and these guys, Realm of Caring is involved, and that Josh Stanley and I think he sits on the board down there with some of these questions. This has all gone to a specific group of people. Both the genetics on this the Stanley brothers, I think, have pretty much made their only inroad into Florida with regards to providing these genetics, and then also having votes on stuff about the way that this gets done in Florida. They sit on the board there. And I'm not trashing on the Stanley brothers, but I am trashing on the idea that people want to just walk this out as big business and let big business get in the way, interfere with. And big business is going to get involved. There's no way to get around that. It's the same boulder I'm hollering about coming down the hill. You're not going to stop big business taking over cannabis. It's just this is why some of the people are in business in the first place. They're waiting for big business to buy them up. This is why they're taking the risk. The big business people won't take the risk. They'll let the little business guys take all the risk. And then when they finally do all the work, the political work to get the minds of the lawmakers changed, and the risk isn't so great anymore, then big business comes in and buys everybody out when the risk has gone away. Because they're protecting those dollars. Look, breaking news today is reports have it that the concentrates manufacturing wing of Bhang Chocolates in California was raided today, just a few hours ago. And I don't have any more details on that. I know that they did go in with a fire truck and crew, a hazmat crew went in there ahead of time and went through the area before the raid occurred, probably to make sure that it was safe, that there wasn't any explosives and stuff that were going to get in the way of whatever the raid team was going to do. But they did. They came in and conducted a raid, and they've shut down operations there until further notice, until they can get this ironed out. I don't know what it's about. But the reason that I brought that up is because it all ties into this big business thing, right? Bhang Chocolates is owned by a commercial capital venture firm to the tune of 60% for $39 million. So the people that put Bhang Chocolates together sold 60% of their business for $39 million. This means that this is going to affect that capital investment, and I'm just interested in finding out in the long run, now that big business is going to be affected by some of this negative impact, did they assume too much risk in acquiring the majority shareholders stake in, or the majority interest stake in Bhang Chocolates? Did they assume too much risk in that acquisition? Or did something else happen that caused this to be a bigger risk than what it started out as? I don't know. Those details are to come. But in the long run, business is going to take this over. I'm just saying, when it gets in the way of affecting the actual marketplace, that's a problem, because you can't get in the way of your own revenue stream. We'll be right back on the other side of the break with more.
You're getting the full melt.
Promotional consideration provided by NoSmell.com, pioneering the storage market for cannabis users. The NoSmell patented bag technology offers users 100% smell-proof detection from even the most sophisticated of noses. NoSmell.com, so nobody knows. When placing your order for a no-smell bag, make sure to use discount code FULLMELT and take 10% off the entire order. Learn more about no-smell technology at nosmell.com.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law
at RudoyLaw.com.
RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana
and up-to-date news.
That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the Allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571. It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Man, the week went by so quickly. Here we are on Thursday already. We only got one more day left in the week. It's still wintertime. We got a little warm snap coming up here in the Michigan area. It seems like people are still trying to dig themselves out of that snowstorm out there on the East Coast. And nobody gets a chance to talk about like what's happening out there in Colorado. Colorado's probably having an awesome ski season this year, I would imagine. In marijuana news today, there's a bunch of stuff happening. It seems like medical marijuana proponents have been gathering at the state's capital in Springfield. This according to National Pain Report at pjstar.com. And So the medical marijuana people have been, really adamant out there about getting some conditions that have been passed by their panel there. They've got a panel process to approve conditions in their what is deemed as a 4-year trial into this medical marijuana field. They're 2 years into that 4-year trial, and they just 3 months ago began some small distribution of cannabis in Illinois. We are here mainly today because we're asking Governor Rayner to hear our voices. Medical cannabis is working for patients, said Caprice Sweet. She's the founder and CEO of the Medical Cannabis Outreach. Sweet, is it Sweat? It could be Sweat, who travels the state assisting patients with registration for their medical cannabis cards, helped organize Approve the 8 demonstration in just a few days to draw attention to the 8 conditions awaiting approval for the Illinois Medical Cannabis Pilot Program. The event brought together advocates of medical cannabis from across Illinois, including a busload of about 20 people from Canton's Salvo Health and Wellness Dispensary and Vermont's Nature's Grace and Wellness Cultivation Center. An expert panel has recommended the addition of 8 conditions, including post-traumatic stress disorder, osteoarthritis, and autism, to the 38 conditions covered under the pilot program. The Illinois Department of Public Health is expected to rule on the recommendations by early next month. Medical cannabis sales have been legal in Illinois for nearly 3 months, and the program's participants always are working to improve their methods and processes. Eric Sweat of the Medical Cannabis Outreach said the group's recently hired a dozen employees across the state, some in Fulton County, to assist patients with registration process. He hopes over the next 2 months he'll be able to add another 20 to 30 employees to his payroll. One of those new employees is Martha Mercer of Canton. She joined the MCO after becoming one of the first patients in the state to purchase medical cannabis on November 9th. That's how fresh this is. Her purchase came from Salvio in Canton. Since then, she says she's played around with a bit of the dosage and form of her medical cannabis, but she's finally having more good days than bad ones. There are only about 4,000 people currently approved to go into one of these dispensaries in Chicago or any other cities in Illinois that have dispensaries available to them. There were 20 cultivation licenses issued throughout the state. And I'm just trying to figure out the math on this, because this is a pilot program, remember? And if the doctors there are too scared to write medical recommendations, because it seems like that's the one component missing from many applications reaching the state. The vast majority of applications are either pending or not, or have been turned down. And it's because they're missing the certification portion. The doctors in Illinois need to feel secure and safe in making the recommendations when these patients come in to see them. If the patient comes in and says, look, doctor, we tried this and we tried that, we've tried the other thing, and none of these things are working, I think medical cannabis might be something I'd like to try. I've got a condition. Will you write me a certification? And the answer right now is coming back from those doctors, no effing way. Not doing it. Well, why, doctor? Don't you want to look out for my patient care? Well, yeah, but I'm also looking out for my license, which gives me the ability to care for you. And I'm afraid that if I start writing medical cannabis recommendations, there's something in the state that's going to come after me. And so I'm not going to do it. I understand your plight. If you don't agree with me, you can find another doctor. I don't know many that are writing these recommendations for the same reason. And then you end up in the situation, this happened in Michigan, you end up in a situation where a lot of the doctors that were doing it started getting scrutinized and pressure put on them, and in some cases having their license at least temporarily suspended while they were looked into over some of these things. And then, they're like, oh, you're just doing these certifications. It's a cert mill. None of these aren't legitimate patients. You're just scribing a condition based on the fact they're coming in and handing you money, and then you sign the form and off they go. A lot of doctors stopped doing that. This should be a process in the first place by which you go in to your doctor and you make a complaint about a condition. Doctor, it hurts when this happens. When I do this, it's not good. Or I broke my leg. Or I'm throwing up all the time, or I've got blood coming from somewhere. I mean, these are the kinds of things you bring to a doctor, and the doctor is then equipped to decide, and first off, he's got to diagnose you, figure out what the problem is, give you an actual legitimate answer to what's causing the problem, and then address the problem by giving you a prescribed treatment path, a course of treatment. And sometimes that course of treatment may include a prescription. And when all these attempted tries at prescriptions fail a particular condition, and then medical cannabis becomes a question, it should be that doctor that then can look at the situation and decide that I'm going to allow you to try this medical cannabis situation and see if this has a solution to your problem. Because none of these other traditional cures or treatments or remedies have worked. And so because you've got this terrible thing that's affecting you in an awful way and none of the things that I'm able to do for you are working, let's try this. That's how this should be going. And even if it's in an instance that maybe some people don't want to try this or that because they already know that there's a side effect from it or there's an allergy at play, they should be given the option to go to this treatment regimen if this is what they choose anyway. This should not be something that doctors are threatened about. This is not something that doctors should be threatened about in the course of their employment. Doctors shouldn't, maybe they can't suffer if the law says, the state can't put any heat on them for signing these certifications. They can't be sanctioned or fined or have their doctor's licenses, unless they do something else wrong, revoked or suspended. But what they can do is get pressure from the DEA about it. Because they're making these recommendations, it's not a prescription, or the DEA would yank their DEA license. It's got to be a recommendation, not a prescription. And so, this brings into question other problems. In Michigan, if you're in court and you're defending yourself, you've got to be able to tell the court, because that's all the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act does, is give you some limited protection. It gives you a protection against arrest and prosecution under certain conditions. If you weren't adhering to those conditions, then you're supposed to get a defense at trial, an affirmative defense to say, look, I did what you said I'm doing, but I have a reason and I have permission, and so the case should be either thrown out or you should take that into account when making your judgment of me. Most cases, then we don't get to do that here because you fail one of the prongs of that test. They won't let you talk about this to a jury because you failed to have a bona fide doctor-patient relationship. In other words, you went to a pot doc and got your certification done. And this is my larger point. If many places, if doctors are not allowed because they're employed by a hospital that says you're not going to, as a policy of ours, as a term of your employment, you're not going to do medical marijuana certifications because we don't believe in it and we don't allow it as your employer, as the hospital. We're telling you no. If you do it, we're going to fire you. They should not be allowed to do that because it impacts on the doctor's ability to do what the doctor's supposed to do, which is address your medical problem and provide you with care and do you no harm. And I think you're doing patients harm when you don't allow them a natural remedy that has 0 recorded patient deaths from overdose in history, the least amount of side effects that cause problems, and is available all across the world in every part of the country because you plant a seed, you grow it, and you reap the benefits.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.